Hey there, Rimmon fans. Jason Ruff alongside Rimmon head coach John Guy Trudel. It's time for another edition of Trudel's Take, brought to you by Help Alliance. Well, Guy, it's been a while since we last talked, so let's jump right into it. Earlier on this month, the Rivermen were really flying high. They were averaging over 4 goals a game. You go on the road last week, and then you see your team put up 5 goals in 3 nights. What was the biggest change from the beginning of the month to now the middle of the month, do you think?
Well, we got on the road against 2 of the best teams in the league, so that's one. 2, I think we played 2 really good goaltenders, the goalie in Huntsville that played both games, and then we have the goalie in Knoxville that stood on his head. So that's going to happen. It's better now than in the playoffs, and we understand also playing man-on-man defense. You got to do different things, and I think we did it okay in 2 games, but I still think we got more in the tank, especially the scoring goals part. I think we did a lot of good things, but we just didn't bury the puck, and that's going to happen here and there. I always say, goal scoring is a little bit like a cat. He's here and there. He doesn't always want to be with you, but you got to keep working hard to make sure that he falls in love with you again, and that's what goals are. You just got to make sure you do the right things to make sure the goals fall in.
So if goal scoring is like a cat, does that make defense like a dog?
I told you that before, my friend. Defense like a dog, always loyal. If you play good defense, you win a lot of hockey games. So it's that loyal animal that's always there. If you do it well, you win a lot.
Absolutely. But let's take a quick look on that Thursday game, because it seemed like the Rivermen did a very good job defensively, held Knoxville to, I think it was 4 or 5 good quality scoring chances, but unfortunately the Ice Bears capitalized on most of their chances.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I still feel we took 5 days off the week before. We had the weekend off, and I give 3 breaks a year, and I think a little bit of the execution part goes away, especially I always say when you battle in the corners, it seems like when you take a summer off or a few days off, that's what's hard. And in Knoxville, in a small rink, a lot of the game is played in the corners or on the walls. So I felt like we played well enough, but offensively, we didn't win enough battles to take it to the dots and do what we have to do against a press defense and the man-on-man defense. So we had a few adjustments to make, but I always say this. I look at the 3 games. We averaged 19 shots against on the road against 2 very, very good hockey teams. So I think defensively we were dialed in. I think our PP lacked a little bit of confidence in execution. We gave 2 shorthanded goals against, which we never give usually. And then I think our top players weren't our top players. I think they just had very average weekends. And if our best players are average, we're in trouble.
Absolutely. I think that goes for any team. If your best players are not showing up in the big moments, then how do you hope to win in those big moments? How would you evaluate your 2 games against the Huntsville Havoc, a matchup that some people have said may be a preview of the future President's Cup final? How would you evaluate your team's performance against Huntsville, especially when you consider that last Saturday game, 3rd period, looked to be the best period the Rivermen had all weekend long?
Yeah, the first game we got there, it's probably my fault. We had the same travel itinerary the other weekend. We did the same schedule there that we had about a month ago, and we didn't show up that Friday either in Huntsville. I don't know if it's the morning travel that kind of gets to us, and then we don't have legs, because it seems like we didn't have legs and first, and then we got down 2-0. After that, like I said, we gave 22 shots that game against Huntsville, and I think they had 6 minutes of power play, so that's pretty darn good against that team. So defensively, we played against well. Just I feel like it was a lot of individual mistake, like one person just really messing up a play and giving that opportunity. And then our goaltenders were good, but I think they were just good this weekend. And we're so used to having 2 goalies that play extremely well, read the play extremely well, and it's a little bit of my fault on that one too. We probably should have had a goalie session when we came back from a 5-day break to kind of get the timing back. We did not. We only had 2 days of practice, so it's kind of we put a lot of information in 2 days, and unfortunately the goalies who paid the price a little bit for that.
We've talked a bit about that 5-day break. Why do you think that 5-day break is going to be beneficial down the line when we get into playoffs, even though maybe the Rivermen are paying for it a little bit in this last week?
I started that 4 or 5 years ago. For me as a player, I do a lot as a coach what I would have liked as a player, and I always felt like When you get back after Christmas, it's like 4 months of grind. You have the dog days. The weather outside is not great. It's cold, and it's just a grinding every single day. It becomes monotone a little bit, like it's just everyday practice every day. So I always felt like as a player, I would have loved my coach to give me, when we have that opportunity to go 3-4 days just away from the rink, go get some sun. Some guys went to Florida, some guys went different places, and just kind of refresh mentally, physically. We all have bumps and bruises when you get to March. So, and just those little, just refreshing to just get out and not think about the game. Just kind of, be with the boys, be with the families, be with friends, and just enjoy life a little bit, because now when they come back for the last month, I'm asking 100% of their attention physically, mentally, to make sure we're on the same page, attacking the playoffs. So I always felt like even if we lose a game or two because of it, I feel like in the long run it's always beneficial.
So had some newer players get some of their first reps in a Riverman jersey this past weekend. How do you think your new acquisitions did?
I was happy. I mean, as a coach, it's always difficult because you have to balance the looking for that great team for the playoffs, but also keep winning.
Yes.
So it's very difficult when the college guys are done like that, because you're recruiting for next year, you're recruiting for the playoffs, but also you have to make sure the guys that are here, that your core guys still get the right reps to try to win hockey games and keep that confidence. So I saw enough. I was happy, especially the third game in Huntsville. We had a chance to play. I think Cahill and Holyoke played a lot of ice time, and I saw a lot of good things by both. Their advanced stats were phenomenal, both of them. So for me, all those things are positive points, and we're going to keep going that way for the next week or two, trying out different recipes, different guys in different situations, and see how it's all going to go. And I'd say probably the last 4 games of the year will be down to our team and just really put everybody in the right spot to have success in the playoffs.
Right, because this week and next week, these are the weeks where you've got to lock down that playoff roster. Obviously, some personnel decisions coming your way with guys starting to come off the IR. I know Brandon McMartin's going to be available this week. Mike Laley, not quite there yet, but he seems to be on the mend. Just talked to him before we had a chance to sit down. But how difficult for that is a coach when you've got a lot of guys, whether that be old vets or young rookies, who have really given it their all and have done good things, but at the end of the day, someone's getting their name ripped off the locker because you got to get the playoff roster down and set.
Yeah, it's tough. I think Monday was a tough one, talking to Paul. When we released Paul. Paul's been here for a while. He's a great soldier. Just unfortunately, I didn't feel like he could bring what we needed in the playoffs, and they're not easy decisions. They're not easy for anybody. They're not easy for fans. But as a coach and as a staff, we talk a lot every single day, and we feel like every decision we make is for the betterment of the team. And I would be doing a disservice to guys that really want to win that championship if I just keep guys because I'm a loyal guy, which I am. But at the end of the day, I get paid to try to bring a championship to Peoria, and that's what I do. They're not always the right moves, but you feel like when you see a guy month after month and you watch him on tape every single day, that you kind of understand what we need, what we can, what we can get away with, and you kind of just put it all together and make the best puzzle possible.
Absolutely. Now, looking forward to this coming weekend, Riverman, 2 home games, sandwiching 1 road game. Good news for Peoria is that they're not going to have to travel outside the state of Illinois for the remainder of the regular season. How difficult is that when you had a little bit of a rut area coming into and hosting a hot team?
Well, people see it as a rut. I see it as a good thing. I mean, like I said, we only gave 16 shots in both games in Knoxville and the last game in Huntsville. We saw a lot of great things. We saw a lot of young players come in and, like you said, with their first reps in pro hockey and actually do really well. We saw some guys that have to pick it up, so they know they have 7 games left. I always say with every negative, I find a positive in it, because over the years, it seemed like we never had these little ruts or losing streak. But for me, I think this losing streak will become a winning thing when it's all said and done, because we go through a little bit of adversity, and some guys are getting pushed a little bit harder starting today at practice. We push some guys a little bit harder to understand that playing regular season hockey is not good anymore. And then also we're going to face different types of defense that we saw this weekend against very good teams on the road and very tough situation with a packed building in Huntsville. And we still did pretty darn well. So a lot of good things out of this little rut. So I see it as we just got to continue to get great reps, and I know I've told you that all year.
It's been the watchword. The watchword. Great reps.
There's absolutely zero pressure on our players of winning Friday. We got to win when the playoff starts.
Right.
So for us right now, it's still understanding what personnel we're going to have, who to put in the right spots, and continue on getting better at different things. Because our PK, even though we got scored 1 or 2, we played extremely well. We killed 5-minute penalty. Like we did a lot of good things this weekend, even though we lost all 3.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are 2 ways, obviously, to look at a skid. Either, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end, they're losing it right before playoffs. Or, like you said, forces you to reevaluate and reassess and really rededicate yourself, because like you said, regular season hockey's not going to work from here on out. It's got to be playoff intensity, playoff style hockey. So with that in mind, I remember you had a sign out on one of the boards out in the locker room that talked about the enemy to success with something having to do with complacency. What is the biggest enemy to success when you're having success? And what's the biggest enemy of sustaining that?
I think it's exactly what you just said. If you get complacent in everything you do, you're done. And I read a great book. We talked about it, Legacy, and it talks about as soon as you have too much success, you have to change everything. Mm-hmm. Just change absolutely everything to get new challenges, new ways of doing things, and then you understand. And that's what we did. I mean, we're trying different things. I brought in a lot of new guys this year. To be honest with you, these 3 losses are actually, for me, I'm happy. Because even if we would have played like we played and still won, guys would still be complacent.
Right.
Now guys are on edge a little bit. They know that it's not good enough anymore to stay on the outside, because in the playoffs you're going to face a great goalie at every single round you're going to play. It's not good enough not to do the right things for one shift, because Huntsville are really, really fast, and if you do one turnover in the offensive zone, they're going to be back on a breakaway in 2 seconds. So every single thing that happened this weekend has its place for us to continue developing and getting better. And if we would have won these 3 games by playing okay hockey, we wouldn't have saw that big picture at the end of the day. And then I think even our leadership group and Levine and Hags and Bearsy and those guys were not happy at all, which is good. Like I mean, when you win a lot, sometimes you're just happy and you don't know why. Right now, we understand that it's just not good enough right now. We did play really good hockey, but some guys, like I said, weren't ready to pay the price, get the inside position, do what we had to do. And at the end of the day, some people panic. I just see it as a great thing. I'm happy. I want to thank Huntsville and Knoxville for those 3 losses, and we'll get back at track after that. But we're lucky also. If I'd be in a position where you're battling for the playoff spot, then those 3 losses would really hurt, and we would have probably done things differently by playing different guys also. But we're in a great position right now to try different things. So I think all in all is as much as there were losses this weekend, it's a win for us.
Absolutely. And you really noticed in that 3rd period on Saturday's game, the Rubens started playing that playoff style hockey, and you could just tell Huntsville was taken aback. I think I told Shane Hudson on the bus afterwards, noticing the guys were in a similar mood to you are right now. Yes, it's a loss, it's tough, but there are things to learn, there are things to take away. I turned to Shane, I said, you know what? If the Rivermen come back here and they have to replay that game in a must-win situation, I think the Rivermen win that game.
Yeah, and it's just what I think one of the big lessons, I think we had a few passengers. If you have 1 or 2 or 3 passengers that make individual mistake, you're in trouble.
Right.
And I think guys are going to realize that to win, we were lucky to win some playoff series over the years. You have to have everybody pulling on the same rope. You can't have one passenger not being ready for a game. Every game is big. I think that was my biggest disappointment of the weekend. We had a few passengers every single game, and we were playing top-notch teams. So you would think a competitor would be ready mentally, physically for those games. But again, lesson learned for those guys that didn't show up as good as they could be on the weekend. Because I know every player that's here right now, they have it in them. Yeah. They have that compete. They're character people. They're good hockey players because they wouldn't be here if they weren't. But I think it's a great lesson in knowing if you're not ready against the top teams, you're going to go down 2-0. All 3 games after the first was 2-0.
Yep.
Even if we played pretty darn well in Knoxville or in Huntsville, the second game, it was still 2-0 for them. So 1 or 2 guys making individual mistake, you're in trouble. So I think it's going to just wake up everybody that every single game we have to pull on the same rope. We had our break. We only have 7 games left. There should be no excuse to go all out all the time and get better every single day.
Well, the good news for the Rivermen, they're going to be home for 5 of those last 7 remaining. Starting this Friday, the Rivermen hosting their 40 fan favorites in 40, wearing specialty jerseys with images of 40 fan favorites as voted on by the fans. Jean-Guy Trudel is one of them. He pulls a little fist bump there. Those jerseys are going to be auctioned off at the conclusion of Friday's game. Plus, the first 750 kids in the doors on Friday will receive a specialty Riverman puck courtesy of Prec Shot Pharmacy. And, of course, on Sunday at 3:15 p.m., the Rivermen also at home against Quad City. Fan fest before the game. Come out and skate with the Rivermen.
To be honest with you, Ruffer, I'm happy it's only one more 3-3. I mean, after Christmas, it seemed like every weekend's been 3-3. I'm excited. I'm excited about Sunday to see the fans. I'm excited about having 5 home games to finish the year. And for fans that were a little disappointed this weekend, don't worry. The boys are in great spirit. All year we spoke about we don't care about the wins and losses. And after Saturday, if you would have saw the locker room, I think we were really excited with the way we played because we know that we can go in Huntsville, and if we really put our mind into it, we can play as well, if not better than them on the road. So that's a big plus for us.
Morale certainly high. I would have thought you'd be excited to see your face on one of those jerseys.
Well, they put Rennie on there too, Tyler Renette, so I mean, I don't find it that spectacular if I have to be beside that ugly mug. Yeah, you, Rennie.
Oh, my goodness. I can't wait for Friday to come. I know you can. I'm sure you can as well. Guy, thank you so much for your time. We'll look forward to talking with you on Friday.
Thanks a lot, Ruffer.
It's been Jason Ruff with Riverman head coach Jean-Guy Trudel for Trudel's Take, brought to you by Health Alliance. We'll talk to you next time, Riverman fans.